Okay, we're going to be doing a video on some light bulbs here, and we're also doing it on a new camera. This is a Kodak ZI6, and we're giving it a run for its money here at the beginning because we're not really using our normal setup, which is typically 3 of these 75 watt 120 volt floodlights. Instead of having 3 of those up there, we've got one of these LED spotlights, 120 volt 18 LED spotlights over on the right side. And then on the left side we have one of these fluorescent 60 watt deals. So it's not the normal lighting, so this camera's not really getting true studio effect or whatever. But we did want to do a video on these little light bulbs. We just got some of these in the mail, and really that's what I wanted to feature, but I figured how could I feature them? I'd compare them. So what we're looking at here is a close-up, and we're using the close-up, the macro feature of this Kodak camera, and it does a pretty good job, at least in the viewfinder here. Looks pretty cool. We're looking at the 18 LEDs of this 120 volt unknown watts, but 120 volt LED spotlight. Now I wouldn't call it a spotlight. I would say that it gives out as much as maybe a 60 watt bulb, but it's hard to say. Not really giving it the best judging here in the studio. We are about 34 inches. We're about 31, and we're about 33. So we're about 33 away from that fluorescent. We're about, what I'd say, 34 from this LED, which is asking it to do a lot. And then we're only 31 or whatever inches from the big incandescent light up there. So I thought I would first off show you what they look like just on their own. So I'm going to now turn off the fluorescent, or I mean the incandescent. Now I'm turning off the fluorescent. Now we're just under the light of the LED, and it's actually throwing off a pretty good amount of light. I'm going to turn it off so you see we're not in a dark room. We do have other lights on, but to do videos we typically need a lot of light flooding the area. So again, it's doing a pretty good job. I'll bring out a knife here. It's actually doing a pretty good job on the viewfinder with just this little LED. I don't think I would replace one of these floodlights with an LED, but potentially if these things work out, I could see this replacing 3 or 4 of these LEDs, replacing one of these and maybe working out. But now let's go ahead and turn off that LED, and now we'll turn on that fluorescent. And the fluorescents actually do kick out some light. Now it looks a little more yellow to me. Just in the room it seems a little more yellow. And perhaps I can put these up picture in a picture next to each other, and you can see maybe on this color orange, on that color red and blue and green, how they look. Definitely dim, but not as bad as that LED was. So now I'm going to turn that one off, and I'll go to the single incandescent 75 watt, and that looks a lot more like some of our videos. And little cooler light, I think, than the fluorescent for sure, which was a little yellow. And this LED is definitely blue. I think this is the most neutral light. Of course, it's sucking the most energy out of my wall outlets, but we'll put them back all on again. Another test I thought I'd try would be to take this heat gun, which when you there's a laser, and whenever you point that laser at something and you let it sit, it's going to tell you a reading. That's the temperature. It's probably 77 degrees in the room here. When I pointed at that fabric back there with no light or anything pointed at it, we're at 77. If I point it up here a little closer where there's light pointing, you see we're up to 81 degrees. So it's a pretty good accurate, doesn't need to be touching heat meter. I'm going to go ahead and shoot it at the incandescent light first. And we get 191 degrees, well, 191.4 degrees. Now I'm going to point it over here at the fluorescent, and we've got 124 degrees. I didn't think they ran that hot, but I just put my hand there, and it definitely is pretty hot. So now I'm going to shoot it up at the LED, kind of right in the middle of the array there, and we're at 81 degrees. So I think that kind of shows how much heat is lost through these various bulbs. We're definitely pumping a lot of electricity out, through this incandescent, we're pumping a little bit less, but not much less out of that fluorescent, quite a bit less out of this LED. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and cycle through them here. So this is nothing, this is just the other lights in the room, kind of dark. We'll put this out for color reference. And let me get something yellow out here as a reference. So now we've got a couple of different colors and shapes and shininesses and things. Here's some more white. So now I'm going to turn on the incandescent first. I'll do them in different order. So that's the big incandescent bulb, and you can see that's a fairly clear, comfortable light in my opinion. Now we're going to go to that fluorescent, and this is a 60-watt fluorescent, and it's not quite as yellow as it was on that first take, I don't think, but you can see a little color change. It's definitely cooler, and you definitely don't get as much of it, but again, we are going from 75 watts down to 60 watts. And then this one's unknown wattage, but it's the LED. I suspect it's a little tougher to do wattage on this because you get such a, such smaller amount of light out of it. But again, much cooler and definitely taking up less electricity. So, maybe 2 or 3 of these little ones to make up a 75 watt. It would be interesting to get the wattage on these. One thing to bring up, while we were filming here, running around and getting the different things, getting a battery for the light meter or for the temperature meter, this one of these shut off, and I suspect there must be some sort of a heat sink or something in it that shut it off. We've played with it and replaced it with the other one, but now we're using it again, so I suspect that there's some sort of a heat sink that doesn't let it overheat, and that tells me that if you used it in some settings, that might be definitely a disadvantage. If it's just going to turn off occasionally, who knows how long it's going to take to cool down and reset itself. They do say they're not for outdoor use, so I don't think they're perfect for sure, but these are also fairly new technology, so I suspect once we see a lot more LED stuff in the future, we're going to see a lot less of this waste of heat when we make light. So again, there's a couple of light bulbs for you. A couple other things to mention about these bulbs that I've just happened to notice, I figured I'd let people know, is I did buy one of these 100-watt fluorescents. Problem is that this base is just large enough and just a different enough shape that this won't screw in. This is just about as big as it can get to screw into a typical socket, which is going to go here and expect the long neck on a typical light bulb. So putting this much stuff right at the base of the bulb is really asking a lot for a lot of fixtures. And this particular 100-watt that I really wanted to use in replace of a regular light, as you can see, is just a bit bigger than this one, and it just wouldn't fit in there, so it would only screw in about one screw, and obviously it has to screw in and hit at the bottom. Something else to be aware of is that these floodlights, there's definitely different types. This one is like a blown black glass bulb with very fragile. You can just tell by touching it. It's very lightweight and very fragile, whereas this one has a built-in lens up front, very heavy duty. It's still blown glass, but this front piece of glass weighs as much as about 5 of these bulbs, probably 20 of these bulbs. There's quite a bit of glass here, and again, the costs reflect it. Even though they're both 75-watt bulbs, this one is definitely meant to last longer than some of these cheap ones that look like them from 6 feet away, but definitely aren't the same type of bulb. If I had to pick one, I probably would go with the fluorescents. That's what most of my friends use. That's what we use around the home and the office. They're about $1. You can get them at most of the dollar stores, and they put out just as much light as any typical bulb. As long as they work in your fixture, I find them to be just as efficient as far as light output as a typical incandescent bulb. Of course, for specific applications, we still do use the incandescents, but for the most part, we end up with these fluorescents all over, and they definitely last a long time, and again, low cost. And then just to be fair to the camera, this is what it looks like with the typical setup with the 3 75-watt bulbs. It actually looks a little worse here, so maybe I should think about putting in a mixture of bulbs, huh? So I'm going to have to take a look at this. We may have discovered something. It might be worth throwing some fluorescents into the mix here. Just wanted to go through and show some of this stuff again, though, with the different light setup. Of course, I'm just looking through a viewfinder here, so this is as much a video about light bulbs as it is a test of this Kodak ZI6 model camcorder that we just got, and there's a video of it, I'm sure, either about to come out or just came out. So that's its zoom again, looking at the 18 LEDs on this LED light, and again a couple of the fluorescents, the incandescents are back in their homes about 36 inches away, pointing down from 3 directions at the stuff here. Indulge me here, I'm going to just test the camera a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and try testing the zoom here, and it seems to zoom kind of choppy in the viewfinder, at least. We'll see how it does in real life there. Not a big zoom range there, but it does zoom in a little bit. So again, thanks for letting me kind of play with the camera here in this video as well. This is also being filmed in HD mode with the 3 75-watt incandescents, and now I'm off the tripod obviously, but this is in HD. The next video we do will be in HD 60. And then just so there's something to compare it with, here is the same setup there under the 3 75-watt incandescents, except with the JVC camera that we have been using more regularly lately.